everyone. Welcome to another episode of Gray Matter. We talk a lot on this show about citizen advocacy, and so many of our viewers and listeners tell us that nowadays they feel powerless. They feel that they're at the mercy of legal structures, of government, of employment structures. And so I thought it would be great to have on the program someone who's actually putting a citizen advocacy to work and really challenging a lot of these structures that make us feel powerless and truly making a difference. And her name is Maureen Steele. She's founded something called the American Made Foundation, which is just the beginning of the advocacy that she's doing. Welcome to the program, Maureen. It's great to have you on Gray Matter today.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So before we introduce you properly and talk about all the many things that you're doing, we're going to start with some framing aphorisms as we always do. The first is from Theodore Roosevelt, who said each child represents either a potential addition to the protective capacity and enlightened citizenship of the nation, or, if allowed to suffer from neglect, a potential addition to the destructive forces of a community. The interests of the nation are involved in the welfare of this array of children, no less than in our great material affairs. And then from Ronald Reagan, former president, who said we should measure welfare success by how many people leave welfare, not by how many are added. From Richard Wexler, the only child welfare systems that succeed emphasize family preservation. And from Maureen's colleague, Ann Vandersteel, who said, legal fiction, it's a fancy language. They teach you in law school so that the common man can't understand it. As a lawyer, I can tell you, I can identify. So who do we have on the show today? Well, we have Maureen Steele. And as I said, she is the co-founder of an organization called America Made Foundation. She's a seasoned paralegal writer and a strategic advocate dedicated to truth, justice, and restoring American values. As a key force behind American Made Foundation, an organization that connects influential leaders and grassroots movements to drive real change, American Made's expertise spans legal strategy, media positioning, high level networking, making them a sought after group in both legal and political spheres. Maureen is passionate about exposing corruption, defending families, and preserving freedom. Maureen has played a pivotal role in initiatives that challenge the status quo and inspire action. So, Maureen, welcome to the program. Where I'd like to start, if you don't mind, is the work that you've been doing on Article 230, I believe it is.
Yeah, Section 230. Yeah, it's very important. It's Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And Jason Fick has been a huge advocate for this for 7 years. And he's brought it to the Ninth Circuit. He's brought it to the Fifth Circuit. They dismissed it. One of them just continues to misinterpret it. Now we're knocking on the door of the Supreme Court. So that's where it is right now. And this really needs to be picked up. We wrote an amicus brief at American Made Action. Christopher Burns was the lawyer behind that. He's on our board of directors, and he's also the director of the United Law Coalition. But General Flynn did one, and Dave Morgan, a gentleman by the name of Dave Morgan. So typically, when amicus briefs go in with a writ to have the Supreme Court pick it up, usually if they have two, the Supreme Court grabs it. This one has three, so we're really hopeful that they reinterpret Section 230 and. Just so people understand, it was originally intended to protect online platforms from liability, but only for the content created by third parties. But over time, the courts twisted it, and now it is like a blanket immunity, and
Hmm.
that's what needs to be changed. So the textual error was literally it was the versus so they changed it. The original statute, I'll read it to you. It says platforms cannot be treated as the publisher of content from another. courts reworded it to a publisher, and this is what gave them like blanket immunity. And so that's what it's literally it's what is depends on the meaning of is. It's like the same thing. It's word salad. It's literally the versus
Hmm.
and them changing that kind of was it allowed them to, shadow ban people, shut down our content during 2020 election. They were shadow banning, we all know what happened during COVID. They're silencing the
Right.
truth. And that this is why it's so important. We need to be able to get the truth out there and let people discern on their own what's truth and what's fiction, not
Hmm.
someone deciding it for us.
It really is an important fight, isn't it? Because, of course, the internet, and social media in particular really has become the public forum, the public marketplace of ideas. And as you say, outfits like Google, which controls YouTube, Twitter, now X, Facebook, and others, they really have had almost a free hand, haven't they? And, of course, in situations in not too distant memory, they have, abused that ability, to sort of warp political narratives. And, let's face it, they were used by the Biden administration and also by the Canadian government, to fix narratives and to ban certain views. And so this is a very important fight, isn't it, in terms of, bringing justice to this and really preventing them from abusing the law.
Well, we need free speech. I mean, without free speech, we can't. And you need truth, and without free speech, we can't get the truth out there. Mainstream media, we already know, is bought and paid for, a total violation of our Constitution. We, the people, are entitled to a free and fair press. They're all bought and paid for. So, really, the only town square we have to exchange news is these social media platforms. But now we have these big tech oligarchs that are just in cahoots with our government, trying to block the truth from the people. So this is really the fight of our lives right now. And if we don't dial this back again, they're going to just be pushing more propaganda, in our future elections and future pandemics, which they're already teeing up. We've already been warned about it.
Hmm.
Maureen, I want to talk about other aspects of your advocacy, but before we
Mhm.
go there, I'm curious to find out how you sort of wandered into the space where you're an outspoken advocate for truth. We know that you're a longtime paralegal, but were
Mhm.
you always involved in these type of legal fights, or was there a point where you became very politically and socially active in this way? What's your backstory here?
Yeah, oh gosh. I was never political. I mean, so anti-politics, I didn't even vote. I was the person that was convinced that it doesn't matter. It's all a stage. And I've been proven right on that. but yeah, I was never political at all. I was a mother, I was an at-home mom. I did mediation work and paralegal work. But primarily I was a mother. And it really wasn't until 2020 when the lockdowns happened that I got
Mm.
activated, that I saw how wrong this was. I had always been a writer, I'd always done creative writing, that sort of thing. I always organized people at schools where my kids were, but I mean, on a national level, absolutely not. So I kind of got thrown into this. I hooked up with Lee Dundas, who was a human rights attorney, right at the beginning of COVID, and I worked with her. That's where I met Clay Clark. I was going to those events. Lee was speaking, and so that's how I got into the activism. I was working with U.S. Freedom Flyers and various groups. Over the mandates, I was totally outraged over that, and ended up putting all of my talents to use in that arena. And anyway, here I am. I met all sorts of interesting people.
So how did you come to meet, Ann Vandersteel and form American Made Foundation?
Sure. So Ann and I met because we've done four national movements together. I had put together the nationwide walkout during the mandate. That was in San Francisco. We shut down the Golden Gate Bridge. And I met Ann at the Clay Clark events. And so I was seeing her at all these different places. And then I was putting together these large movements. Ann was in the media. She's coming to report on it. And we just hit it off. And I thought she was very bright and very honest. And so we've done several projects together. And now we decided to, about a year ago, do American Made Foundation, and then about 7 months ago, do American Made Action. And then underneath American Made Action is DOJA, the Department of Government Accountability, and the
Mm.
United Law Coalition. So
Wow.
that's how we met.
You've
Yeah.
you've really started a whole movement of citizen-led advocacy, haven't you? And
Oh, yeah.
it seems as though this is a movement that is really gathering steam in the United States. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the people are rising. This is the reckoning right now, Leighton. And the rising is now. I write about it all the time, but you see it everywhere you go. Ann and I travel all over the country, and people just want to know, what do we do? But they're
Yeah.
ready to take action. They see that it's really up to we the people. We are the cavalry. No one's coming to save us but us.
Mhm, mhm. One of the causes that you've been involved in, is, what's described as state-sanctioned kidnapping industry. This is child welfare, and how did this come to your attention? First of all, tell us about that, and secondly, talk about what you and American Made Foundation are doing about this.
Sure, sure. So, most people know about this. If you have a friend, or you've been divorced, or you have a friend who's been divorced, or a sibling that's been divorced, everyone knows the ills of the family courts. And I started digging into it, a couple years ago, really in earnest. With things being brought to my attention with when Ann and I were both working with the People's Operation Restoration, and we were just getting hundreds of phone calls about CPS, especially in Arizona. There were certain states where it seemed to be far more egregious. So that's when I started looking into it, and these laws, as we all know, Leighton. Um, the Adoption and Safe Families Act, written by Hillary Clinton and signed into law by Bill Clinton in the 90s. That's when things went really, really sideways
Mhm,
with child protective services. But as with all of these bills and a lot of these laws, what it looks like, what it's named on its face, and what it actually does are two very different things, polar opposites, actually.
mhm,
This bill did absolutely nothing to keep families safe. And what it really did was put a price tag on children's heads. And whenever you do that, that's when you're wide open for corruption, whenever
mhm,
you make something valuable monetarily. So that's how, the state sanctioned kidnapping, I've written several articles on this, really came into play. Mike Pompeo I think it was 2017, in his Secretary of State, the Missing Persons Report, that was his duty at the time. He had put out then that it was the foster care program, which is all CPS, all of these family law judges. Um, that is the largest purveyor of children into sex slavery in the country.
mhm,
So it's never been looked into. So that's very telling when you have a Secretary of State saying this is a real problem, and it's no one even looks into it. No one even cracks a window on it. It's because it's a huge industry. This state sanctioned kidnapping is an $80 billion a year industry
wow.
on average.
Incredible. This one hit very close to home for me, Maureen, because in my home province of Alberta, Canada, for many years, decades actually, my law firm had the contract to do child protection services applications, and so I guess without realizing it, I was one of the baddies. But then when I started to read and research some of the work that you're doing, I began to realize, well, gee, why is the government involved in this way? Why isn't the legislation geared towards restoration of families? Why does it
Mhm.
seem to promote the separation of children from parents? And of course, when you start to think more deeply about it, it gets down to the left's view of the family as really the constituent unit of our society, and this legislation, if it's perverted and it's not done in the proper way, really is a very powerful engine for the destruction of families, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is, but it's worse in the sense, Leighton, that these family courts are completely sealed.
Yeah,
So, and they're not, they're not Article 3 courts. These are
yeah.
administrative courts. So the Constitution is dead there. You have no innocence, till proven guilty. You have
Right.
no due process. You're completely at the mercy of these courts,
Mhm,
and it's all operating in silence. So there's no one overseeing them.
mhm.
So there's backroom deals. They're getting paid, tens of thousands of dollars. There's extra money, an extra $10,000 on every child you adopt out. So though
Wow.
they say in the paperwork, oh, reunification is the main thing. For example, this is a horrible statistic, but it's true. There's 8,000 children right now in the state of Massachusetts, and that's not a very large state.
Mhm.
8,000 kids that are in the custody of CPS right now. There's only 48 of those 8,000 that were legally taken and for a legitimate reason. That's astonishing.
Mhm.
So they have an under 1% success rate. And what they're really doing is destroying families because it's a good paycheck. And so not
Mm.
only is it CPS and these criminals in black robes that sit on every, court across the nation, you're looking at another industry, and not just the sex slavery. It's not just the adrenochrome. It's not just that. You're looking at like anger management classes, these child visitation centers,
Right.
these county mental health facilities that are all parasites off of the
Mhm.
CPS machine. And so none of them have, they only get paid by having you go to their classes or having you have to go there to
Right.
visit your child 1 hour a week. And they're the ones that are filing the reports to the judge to say, oh, you're good to go. No, this is really a good dad or this is a good mom. They should be with their children and their children are devastated. They don't care. And
Mhm.
their paycheck comes from keeping you in the system. And so also big pharma's involved in this.
Mhm.
85% of children in foster care are heavily medicated on psychotropic drugs, and a lot of them adult psychotropic drugs. Again, they're medicating these kids because these children just left good families. They're devastated. Of course, they're acting out. Of course, they're angry. And the foster care's response, the court's response, CPS's response is to medicate these children.
Mhm. And parents, are really, in many ways, powerless up against this huge engine, as you describe it. And is that part of what you do? Part of the American Made Foundation is to assist parents, to empower parents to fight all of this?
No, no, it's not. We're trying to cut the head off the snake. So
Ah,
we're not taking individual cases. And that's something I think some people find confusing. Like, I need you to help me. I need you to review my paperwork. It's not about that. We're trying to topple CPS altogether. It's an
ah.
agency that's rogue. It is a criminal enterprise and it needs to be dismantled. And the same thing with these lower courts. We need Article 3 courts. You can't have, our Constitution says you can't have your property removed from you without a trial by your peers. Yet they're removing children from parents constantly without criminal charges, without warrants, without any of this. And the police are complicit. There's sheriffs that are complicit in all of this. So we're going after all of them. We're holding them personally and professionally accountable for the destruction of people, deprivation of rights under color of law, fraud in many cases. So we're going after, our next case is going to be in Massachusetts.
Mhm.
Uh, and again, just wildly corrupt, very similar to New Hampshire and Arizona. Especially with CPS. So that's who we're going after next. The judges, a doctor, one case in particular, the Rivera case, 5 children were taken from their family. If you can even imagine this, um, the youngest of the five at the time was 9 months old, went into a doctor for a 9 month wellness visit, had done the 3 month, 6 month going in. Dad went with the baby. The doctor offered the vitamin K shot, which is usually given at birth. They tell you, oh, you have to have it. So, because the baby could bleed to death, it could have a clotting problem. I mean, wait and see if it has a clotting problem. That's my motto. But They usually just it's standard, they just give it to every newborn baby. So the parents refused the vitamin K shot at the birth. This is the 9-month visit. They refused it again. The doctor got angry, said that if they don't have it, they're gonna report he's gonna file a 51A form, which is, basically reporting to CPS that the parents are neglectful. The father said, "Do what you need to do. I have every right to refuse this shot for my child." And the doctor was trained in Tehran, Iran, reported the family. And instead of CPS saying, "There's no there," there's no investigation to be had. They have every right as the parents to refuse a vitamin K shot. Did the baby look starved? Did it look, malnourished or ill kept? Nope. All the doctor's notes were perfectly healthy. All the children are, and they started a manhunt on this family, to the tune the family ended up moving to Texas. CPS went so hog wild in because of their audacity to leave the state, even though they weren't charged with anything, nothing like that, because there was no there. They put out an APB when the family moved to Texas, and they ended up surrounding the family with gunpoint, 10 officers with guns drawn threw the parents on the ground in front of the kids, extradited the kids back to Massachusetts, and actually charged the parents at this point with familial kidnapping, whatever that is. I don't know how a mother and father can kidnap their own children, but
Bizarre.
uh, they were held on $2.5 million bail each in Texas for 30 days
Hmm.
while their kids were extradited to Massachusetts. So this is the kind of criminality we're talking about. There was just that illegal alien who butchered those two people in California. He's been
Right.
held on $5 million bail, and here we have two parents held on $5 million bail for allegedly refusing a vitamin K
Hmm.
shot for their child and familial kidnapping.
Hmm.
It's extraordinary. So this is where we're at. This is absolute tyranny, and these
Hmm.
agencies have absolute power, and they can do whatever they want, and no one questions them. They rubber stamp everything. The
Hmm.
judges do. The attorney general in Texas did it. And the father, when he got back to Massachusetts, got held on $25,000 bail for another 2 months, and he hasn't been charged with any crimes.
Hmm.
And neither has the mother, but neither of them are allowed to see their children. The father, not at all. And the mother was allowed 1 hour a week supervised.
Hmm.
These kids are absolutely traumatized. They can't sleep. They're having nightmares. These kids are traumatized for the rest of their lives over nothing. And this is more the norm than it is the abnorm, where you
Hmm.
just have families torn apart and absolutely put into crisis. And there's nothing to back it up. And so you have to keep going back to these family law judges who are rubber stamping all of this to make your complaint. And they're not going to rat themselves out. This is their money making machine. So
Hmm.
that's what we're doing. We're trying
Hmm.
to cut the head off the snake.
Hmm. Well, that certainly is a big job. I think at bottom, there seems to be what's driving this is a presumption on the part of the state, which I believe the Biden administration was very overt about, that really children don't belong to their parents, that actually the children belong to the state. And that seems to be what's driving the type of incident that you described,
Mhm.
where the kidnapping is the taking of the children essentially from the state, and they're
Yeah.
taking the children from the parents and restoring them to their state. It really is a perverse way of viewing child rearing, and very very destructive of the whole concept of the family, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely brutal. But you mentioned it earlier, Leighton, in that the family is the backbone of society. You
Yeah.
destroy the family, it's very easy to take it over. So I think they're playing the long game here, and they've been whittling away at the family since really the '60s. That's when all your bra burning started, and then in the '80s, women really went back to the workforce en masse
Yeah.
because they're told, "Oh, why do you want to stay home? What a waste of your time! Don't you have anything better better to do with your time, like, go into the workforce. So now the kids are left alone, they're in daycare, and now they had us. And all through the 90s, we're being fed the line that, you're so much better off outside the home, having a successful
Yeah.
career. Mom, and the kids, oh, they're better off in daycare. They're learning to be socialized. And what they were doing was learning other people's values, not your family's values, and not your values as the
Mhm.
parent. And so they drove that wedge. Now women are more stressed out than ever. They're more unhappy than ever. Dads aren't happy either. And so, you have this horrible dynamic. And now the pendulum is really starting to swing the other way, as it always
Mhm.
does. And
Mhm.
I've written some articles on that. When you get that overcorrection, it's going to overcorrect harder even the other way as it starts
Yeah.
swinging back. So now you have all these women that get it. Now they want to stay home. They want to be home with their children. And I think there's a real pushback for that. Thank goodness. But the CPS is really upping the ante now. And as you know, Leighton, one of the important things to point out here as well is the Chevron deference was overturned by the Supreme Court in
Right.
July of 2024. And
Mhm.
basically it says that, these, agencies and judges can no longer just rubber stamp whatever they
Right.
say. And
Mhm.
their judges are still doing it. So the judges are violating the law. Like I said, these are criminals in black robes, and we're seeing it, from the highest courts right down to, the lowest courts, like probate court and traffic court. They're nothing but criminals. They're there not to uphold your rights, but to deprive you of them. And that's just not going to fly any longer here in the United States. The
Mhm.
the law coalition we've assembled is over 1,000 strong. We've had two retired judges come out of retirement to craft strategy. So we're going to be popping these cases off all over the country and really
Mhm.
holding their feet to the fire. And like I said, not just professionally, everyone wants to hide behind that corporate cloak. We're going to be going after them personally as well.
Wow. Well, this is wonderful to hear, and of course, you're doing great work, not only in the realm of child protection, but also American Made has also been involved in a project called Ground Zero, North Carolina, fighting globalism to restore the republic. I watched this video that was produced on your website, which is just gripping. But talk about this. What happened there? How I guess the state bureaucracy, the same type of bureaucracy. I guess you talk about the head of the snake. Maybe it's a hydra. Child CPS is sort of one head of that snake, but it turns out that FEMA was maybe another head of that snake. Do you want to talk about that a little bit and the work that you've been doing there?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, Anne is an exceptional journalist. She was boots on the ground there immediately after that flood. It was just terrible, but and she was instrumental in exposing FEMA having a presence there, but doing absolutely nothing. And I think it was literally the day after Trump got elected, all the trucks start rolling up, and actual help got to the people. But up until that point, they were talking a big game that they were there, and they definitely had a presence there, but it was more nefarious. They were actually keeping supplies from the people,
Mhm.
and they were also there helping CPS steal children from families that had lost their homes. In fact, there's still families in North Carolina that don't even know where their children are. You
Mhm.
just lost all of your valuable papers, birth certificates, all of it, driver's licenses. I mean, your home just got washed away, and they were taking children, walking around with some of the military at times, walking around in the woods, up in the mountains, and someone didn't have a home, they're living in a tent, and they would say, well, you're not providing for your children here. We can see that. So we're going to take them. And it was just devastating. They also
Yeah.
did a land grab there, just like they did in Hawaii.
Wow.
So, that's what this is all about. That they have huge crystal deposits. Some of the largest crystal deposits in the country are in North Carolina. Incidentally, right in that no flood zone where there was a flood, and it's a head scratcher. And now the land is all being seized, and you need that. You need those crystals for AI.
Mhm. And really, is using the power of the state to do evil. I even heard, that they were denying people help or money based upon race. That actually that white people were sort of put to the bottom of the list,
Yeah.
in terms of receiving basic assistance like blankets and food and things like that. Really, really astonishing, isn't it? The level of corruption that you find in this organization, which has huge amounts of money. Its purpose is to help people in the face of disaster, but in fact, what they do is they go in, and in many ways, they make the situation even more intolerable than it already is.
Oh, 100%. They're the do-gooders that do no good at all. That's what I call them. So, yeah, I mean, it was really horrible what they did, and you're so right. They have an enormous budget, and what we're finding is the budget is, with Doge and all that they uncovered, a lot of the money that they do have is being used for nefarious reasons and to cause harm, and so all of that needs to be righted, and we have the Law Coalition to do that. So we'll be working with investigators, um, and undercover journalists as well, to bring all of this to light and to bring charges. This is a waste of our money, as taxpayers. We're all going without so that these agencies can commit crimes against the people they're taking the money from. I mean, this isn't justice. This is un-American, and we're going to put a stop to it.
Mhm. Maureen, I want to turn your attention to a couple of really seminal, important Supreme Court cases in the United States that were released just this month. Earlier this month, there was a lawsuit that the Supreme Court revived, and this is one case of an Ohio woman who claimed she was the victim of reverse discrimination because her employer denied her a promotion because she was straight. This is a case of Ames versus Ohio Department of Youth Services. And this is an important case because the court tossed out a ruling by a federal appeals court that dismissed her claim that she failed to clear a higher bar applied to members of a majority group. Essentially, the nub of the case is about reverse discrimination. And of course, we know this is happening. We know that this is illegal, but this seems to be the first time that the Supreme Court is saying, you know what? Any type of discrimination on the basis of race, even if it's against someone who's quote unquote white, is going to be treated as something that's illegal and that attracts legal remedies. What are your thoughts about this case? What are the implications going forward?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction for certain. Discrimination is discrimination. So, just to get a job because you're gay is terrible. As terrible as not getting a job because you're not gay. I mean, that's absurd. We should be hiring and firing on merit. And that's it. I mean, that's how our country has always been run. So, to have strayed from that and to have tried to normalize that for so many years, that's where the problem lies. So, I think this is a breath of fresh air and some real hope, that this can apply to college entrances and all of that. You
Hmm.
can't discriminate people because they're not the right skin color. I mean, it's affirmative action was great, but I don't think we need it anymore. We're not in a time that we need it. We have, Harvard, we have our Ivy League schools literally not letting any white kids in. I mean, they're just allowing, Asian kids, or they're actually not letting Asian kids at Harvard. There's lawsuits there. They're letting other people of color in. As long as you're not white or Asian, you're good to go. So I mean, that's just wrong. It's test scores. It's what have you done? It's the whole picture. It's the whole picture of who the person is, not what their skin color is. So I think this is a huge step in the right direction. This is encouraging.
I agree, and I hope that it has ripple effects in other countries throughout the West. Here in Canada, a few years ago, our former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, thank God in Greyhound he's gone. Although I don't know if we've upgraded him. He had a program that came under scrutiny. It was a summer jobs type program, and it basically disqualified any person who was white or heterosexual. And so this type of thing is very pernicious, and I don't think many people know that it's happening. So I'm very hopeful that this Supreme Court case is going to shed some light on that. Another
Yeah.
case that just happened more recently, just on the 18th of June, the Supreme Court upheld a Tennessee law that bans gender affirming medical care for quote unquote transgender minors. I'm not convinced that transgender people actually exist, but this includes puberty blockers and hormone therapy. This is a 6-3 decision. This is a very, very important case to protect young Americans, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, this is child abuse. That's what this equated to. I mean, children were getting mutilated. I mean, which one of us can sit here and say at 12, 13, 14 years old, we didn't feel uncomfortable in our own skin or awkward or depressed or whatever. It's part of growing up. To to take that vulnerable, volatile time in an adolescent's life, and we've all been through it, and put them through something else. Like, oh, you'll be happier if, you know, you transition into a man or you transition into a female. That's not the answer. The answer is deep-seated issues, or just being an adolescent. Like I said, we all go through it. Puberty is a tough time. So I think, again, this is a huge step in the right direction, for our children. And I hope this is a step in the right direction, that we get to a place where, we shouldn't, the taxpayers' dollars should not be used to pay for this surgery in the military or through Medicaid or anything else. I mean, we need to be paying for single mothers and single, children and children without fathers and people that need a leg up, the elderly, not these people that have, these profound mental illnesses that, need other kinds of help, but certainly not, a $200,000 sex change surgery and their hormones every month on my dime. I'm all
Mhm.
set. So is it everyone else.
We had a similar case here in Alberta. And our premier, Danielle Smith, actually introduced legislation which made it made these types of quote unquote gender affirming care, which we should note has no scientific evidence to support it whatsoever. In fact,
Uh-huh.
all the evidence shows that this type of quote unquote care is actually harmful and makes things worse. But she brought in legislation making it unavailable to children. What's concerning, though, Maureen, is that looking at this case that's called Skirmetti in Tennessee. It was a 6-3 decision. And, I read the dissent of Justice Sonia Sotomayor, and which is, difficult to do, but she was joined by predictably by Judge Justice Jackson and Kagan, but they said that essentially they affirmed and repeated a lot of the lies about gender affirming care, that this is actually, they warned that the decision abandons transgender children and their families to political whims. And they use a lot of the language, which I think has proven to be false and harmful to children. It seems to me that, this June, the whole Pride Month thing has been less emphatic, less offensive as it has been in the past, but still this leftist narrative is still out there, and we still need to keep fighting against it, don't we?
Oh, 100% we do. It's going to be constant pushback from the American people, and from people around the world, that we're just not buying into this agenda. This is something that's being forced on us, and you can see that weaker minds are in people that aren't of strong character. They don't know who they are. They're depressed, whatever it is. They're very easily influenced by this. I mean, they're framing this like this is the pill that's going to make your life all better. Just become a man, just become a woman. That's just not how it goes. And actually, statistics show, you're 100% right, Leighton, is that, it doesn't prevent people from killing themselves. Actually, it goes up, because once you have all that affirming care, the physical pain you're in, the infections that these surgeries cause, and there's so many shows now of girls or boys that transgendered into a female, and some of them, I have to say, they look actually pretty attractive. They look like women. I mean, some of them do, some of them don't, but the ones that do, they're like, "Why won't a man date me? Like, I'm hot. Why doesn't a man date me?" It's like, "Because you're a man." Do
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, you, just 'cause changed your looks, like, you're still a man, and a real man is gonna wanna be with a real woman, not someone masquerading as a woman, and no one seems to stop and think of all the implications it has on real women like myself, how insulting that is, that you really
Mhm.
think you can get your jawline, softened, and a nose job, and a boob job, and put on a pair of pumps and a skirt, and go to lunch at Spago, and suddenly you're the bravest woman in the world, and you're woman of the year, like, that's crazy.
Mhm, mhm,
There's so much more to being a woman than that, and, just like there's so much more to being a man, how insulting it would be for me to say I'm a man now, when I don't know what it's like to try out for a football team or, get pantsed in a locker room. I mean, that's all rites of passage growing up as a guy, right?
mhm,
Asking a girl out on your first date, all of that. Like, I wouldn't know what that feels like, and I still wouldn't even if I changed my clothes and my hair and started taking testosterone. I only know life through my eyes, and that would be the eyes of a woman.
mhm, mhm. I mean, obviously, being a woman is much more than a Shania Twain song. "Man, I
Yeah.
feel like a woman."
So
There's a lot more to it, but, I've often thought about this whole concept of transgenderism, and I struggle to think of an idea that the enemy came up with that is more alienating in every way. If you think about it, feeling that you are trapped in the wrong body, it
mhm,
alienates you from yourself, it alienates you from your family, it alienates you from your community, it alienates you from your culture and your history. But most important of all, it alienates you from God. It's this idea that you make of yourself a god. You say to God, all-knowing, perfect God who created the universe, God, I know you're perfect in understanding. You created the universe, you created me, but you know what? You made a bit of a mistake on me. And
mhm,
what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop off some of my body parts and take some drugs. I'm going to fix me. And really, it's the most awful thing in the world. I can tell you, talking about how painful these surgeries are. There's a man in Canada, an Indigenous man actually, who went to Europe several years ago to have these surgeries done, and, he was in such constant pain that he had a life worse than death, and he applied to be of course, in Canada, we have something called medical assistance in dying, where our government shamefully assists people to kill themselves, but this man was denied. Even though he was in constant pain, he was in such horrible pain, and the government said no, and he told me he thought it was mainly because he was indigenous and that it would be politically incorrect for them to grant him the ability to kill himself. So it just goes to show how destructive these ideas are.
mm. And that's a hard story to hear. That
Yeah.
really is.
So,
Yeah.
Marina, I wanted to talk to you coming back to the American Made Foundation. I noticed when I researched you that you're very active in writing different pieces and articles. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing in publishing there and where people can find you if they want to read about some of the work that you're doing and read some of your pieces.
Sure, sure. So you can follow me on Substack. I have my own Substack. We also have the American Made Substack. But Ann Vandersteel puts out all my articles on her X. I put it out on my X, Maureen Steele underscore Ann Vandersteel. Everyone knows Ann. She's my partner. So yeah, I'm a prolific writer. I write for the Blaze. I write for the National File, American Thinker, American Greatness, Zero Hedge. Um, BizPac Review, Thrive. So there's a lot of periodicals that I write for 'em I write about politics, I write inspirational essays, I write about all different topics. I do a lot of op-eds, some are funny. So yeah, I have different styles that I write in, and I'm also a legal writer, so I do a lot of legal writing as well. So
Mhm.
that's my passion and my hobby. So
So, for you right now, what is your most important project that you're working on? What's foremost for you and the American Made Foundation right now?
taking out CPS.
Ah,
Um, that is a very corrupt organization, Leighton, and they are, it's state-sanctioned kidnapping and using the family courts to do it. These are criminals in black robes. So we want to dismantle the lower courts and we want to abolish CPS. And Mary Flynn, General Flynn's organization, America's Future, they have, you can't abolish something and leave a vacuum. So there's a lot of people out there, a lot of very smart people that have put their heads together, and there's a new system to put in place that there won't be a vacuum. We've got this new thing we can slide right in that is, by the people and for the people in a much better system. So that's our biggest project, and we're going to be launching a federal lawsuit in Massachusetts within the next 30 days. So that's our next biggest project is holding all of these evildoers or the do-gooders that do no good at all accountable. So we're going after them professionally and personally, and I think that's where they're going to start rethinking matters.
Well, you and Vanderstel are obviously doing very important work on behalf of children and really all Americans. And you're on the front lines. You're slugging this out. You're filing amicus briefs and filing lawsuits. But if people want to get on board, if they want to support the work that you're doing financially, is there a way that they can do that?
Yes, yes, and we encourage them to do that. So, so you can go to American Made Action. You can go to American Made Foundation. Either one. One is a C3, one is a C4, and there's a donate now button, and you can donate to us, and then the money goes right into our account immediately, and that is greatly appreciated. It's going to take all of us. These lawsuits are not cheap to file.
Hmm.
Filing fees on some of these goes into the thousands. Never mind the time preparing, your case and arguing your case. So this is really important work that we are doing, and it must be done. So yeah, any support, any financial support, and if you want to just help, you can also go on to the American Made Action website at any time. And there's always actionable items you can take immediately. Right now, there's some notices on there that are going to go right into Pam Bondi's inbox about judicial malfeasance. So there's things always on there that you don't have to sit at home and feel like, I don't know what to do. Like, here's what you can do.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, we're going to provide those links and also to the America Made Foundation so people can find you and contribute. I have to ask, with all this writing that you're doing, obviously you're very busy filing things in the courts. Is there a book in the offing? Are you gonna try to produce a book or a compilation of your essays that's coming out?
There's actually, I have a few books in the works. One I just finished. It's actually about CPS and the CPS pipeline, state-sanctioned kidnapping. That book is written. Just doing the final walkthrough of the book right now, so that'll be out on Amazon and Kindle shortly. And then I also have a book I started on the heroes and the new founding fathers, the people that have fought for freedom over the last 5 years, and I
Mhm.
just never wanted any of them to go unrecognized. People won't remember them as we move down the line, so I've been writing, inspirational essays on all the people that I've met over the years in the freedom movement that it might have just come in for a year, done something amazing, moved the needle a little bit, and then they went back to their life, but these people should be remembered. Even people like you. I mean, this is brave what you're doing from Canada, and you're all over the place. That's huge. You get the word out, and it's just such important work that's being done. So I have that book in the works as well.
Well, I'd be honored to be mentioned in your book, and I'd also be honored to have you back to talk about the book or either of your books when they're published. Speaking
I
of
love it.
books, we usually close these interviews with our reading lists, so we're going to turn to that. We don't have a book of yours to talk about yet. But hopefully, that's coming in the future. But I
Yeah.
do have a couple of books that I'm going to mention to add to our list, and then I'm going to ask you, Maureen, if you have a selection or two that you would recommend to our viewers and listeners. The first book is called War Against the Deep State. This is a book by John Mills. And here he lays out the threats to freedom that all Americans face, and not just Americans, but people throughout the world, especially in the West. It's action packed, filled with suspense, and laced with actions to defeat our enemies. The reader will be left with no other choice. Time to stand up and speak up. That is a review from Michael Flynn, and also Anne Vandersteel, who's your partner in crime, as it were. She
Yeah.
also gives this book two thumbs up. She says that this book highlights the urgent need for Americans to step up and do what their founding fathers stated on parchment 250 years ago. Their civic duty. The battle plan is Tactical Civics, the Army is We the People. The second book is called, surprisingly, We the People by Peter Magistrale, and it's called We the People Are the Problem, How Americans Betrayed America. And I thought this was a useful selection because a lot of the things that you talk about, Maureen, is actually how the people are being turned against themselves through the apparatchiks of the state. And here the book talks about how we treat politics like a high school prom, sporting event, or beauty contest, and then we wonder why we have atrocious leaders. Is the answer not yet clear? We have incompetent citizens. It is these incompetent citizens of all political parties that are destroying America. And so, what this is a call to action to get involved with programs like yours, and to really make a difference, as opposed to simply, just watching what's going on Fox or CNN, or following what's on social media, and being willfully blind and deliberately ignorant about what's really going on. And so I thought this would be an interesting book, companion to the work that you're doing. So, Maureen, are there any books that have influenced you, that you would recommend to our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, yeah. One jumps right out at me. I think it was one of the most enlightening books I've ever read. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin. Do you know the book? Have you read it?
I have heard of it, have not yet read it. So this is a I always love it when people, our guests bring up books that aren't on our reading list yet. And that's
Yeah.
something because, we've got over 350 episodes now. So bravo.
Yeah. So that G. Edward Griffin is still alive. He's in his 90s. He wrote this book in the early 90s. He'd be a great guest to have on if you can get him to come on the show. A brilliant man. Again, that this was written in the early 90s. He basically outlined how we got the Federal Reserve, why it was created, how
Right.
it was created, all of their bankers' wars. The deep state has been around for a long time. I know a lot of people look and go, oh, it's so terrible what's going on in the world today. No, this has been going on for 150 years. We're just waking up to it now. We're just seeing it and we're
Hmm.
understanding what's happening. And that's what's so terrifying. But he explains such complex material. He breaks it down for the average person, with eighth grade intelligence so you can understand it. I've
Right.
read the book like 3 times. I keep reading it, and every time I read it, I pull more stuff out of it. But it's an amazing read. It's a fascinating read, and he's a brilliant man.
Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful book. Actually, we recently spoke with Dr. Murray Sabrin, who is with the Mises Institute, and he mentioned that book. So yeah, that's a great selection. Thank you for mentioning it. Maureen,
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and for making people aware of the need to get involved, to be someone of civic responsibility. I think this is really vitally important, and I would speak especially to people who are Christians out there, because of course we cannot just have an idle faith. We have to act out our faith. We have to walk it. We have to walk it out. We have to be examples. And I think what you're doing, really is a shining example to other people of the difference that can be made if you focus your energy and your efforts and your mind and your creativity on helping others, which is really the call to action for all Christians. So really been our pleasure to have you on the program, to get to know you, and also to learn about all the incredible work that you're doing. So thank you very much for
Well,
being our special guest on our program today.
oh, thank you. Thank you guys for having me on. And thank you for what you do. If it weren't for people like you getting the word out, it's such important work. My story and what we're doing, no one would know about it. So thank you.